Alright, we're back. So, Photo Etch. Now this is going to be an absolute pain in the rear to get this out, as each one of these leads have got an attachment point. So, on a piece of black Perspex or acrylic, Perspex being the brand name, use that to keep this flat to cut down onto. This Perspex came with my Photo Etch hold and fold. So this is the small shop. I have to say, the best Photo Etch hold and bending tools available. I have a number of them and they're really good. So if you are looking for a Photo Etch bending tool, that's the company to look for. Right, so with the number 11 scalpel blade, I'm just using the point to cut through the attachment point. And you really need good eyesight for this, because my goodness me, they are small. You can hear them snipping as you go. Now try and keep them as unbent as possible, purely because they're so fine. You do not want the brass to work harden and break on you. If you think there's going to be a problem, then just get a lighter and you can anneal it, which makes it very soft. Again, you need to be careful. I did think about doing this off camera, but in the interest of showing you guys the tedium of modeling, I thought I'd show you. Right, now with all those points off, you just gently want to tease it away, find the ones that haven't cut through. Must be nearly there now. Maybe just one more. This one here. Still don't want to go through. Here we go. Hurrah! Right. So we'll just straighten as best we can these leads. They're very fine, I have to say. Best to straighten them now whilst you've got it away from the engine, because it's going to be pretty hard to do it when it's on the engine. Right. Let's give it a test fit. So, pick one of the engines. Get me a fine pair of tweezers. And we'll just pick it up and pop it down. And that's a good fit. That's a good fit. It fits nicely around the right. So you just line it up to the cylinders with the ignition wires. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And then we just need to get some super glue and touch in. So give me a moment while I get the super glue, and we'll come back and glue this. Right, so I've taken the ignition ring back off because what I'm going to do is put the super glue on first. So using my Display precision applicator, we're just going to put a number of spots of glue around the circumference of the reduction gearbox. And bearing in mind this is really light photo etch, so it's not going to take a ton of glue to hold. And then, same as we did before, just pick it up, line it up this time, get it where you want it, because it will probably grab and hold with the super glue. And then just gently position and touch it down. It will just take a pretty moment. This is older super glue I have, so it's lost its initial grab that a new tube of super glue would have. So we just need to put it in place and hold it, and it will take. In fact, it has. It's bitten nicely. There we go. Right, now there's the big quandary. What do we do next? I'm of a mind, whilst these ignition wires are sticking out flat, is to do a bit of painting, and then we can fold them in. And it's two leads to each cylinder, so you've got one going to the front and one going to the back. Do you know something? Actually, we could probably just glue them down and paint it. Right, so touch and then push down to glue. Now you could use PBY for this. It'll just take a little longer to dry. If you remember the last time I spoke about using this, just to clear the little eyelet out if the glue dries in it, just the heat of a lighter will burn off the glue. And you won't have tons of obnoxious fumes to choke you. It really does burn off pretty quick. So spot the glue on the end pads where they are, and then just gently take it down to the cylinder. And we're going to do that right around the cylinder. So, in the interest of not sending you all to sleep, I'll do this off camera, and we'll come back once we've got both engines glued up with a photo etch and ready for paint. Right, we're back, and we have, there we go, painted up the engines. So we've got the ring, the main ring around the reduction gearbox is just silver, and then the leads are painted like a tan colour. It's just Revell paints, and that's that. And I think you'll agree that it's really given a bit more detail to the engine. Now, if we pop that engine in a nacelle, a cowling, there we go, and there you go. You can see really nice detail. It's lifted the engine, and it's given something else to look at when you look in. Now I'm going to let them cure up, and we'll give them a very, very light wash, and then we might come back in and do a little bit of dry brushing to catch out some of these the bolt detail around the reduction housing. So that's fine. So the next job to do is to paint the inside of the cowls, and then we can think about getting the engines fixed to the wing. When I left off last time, I had glued in these center vents, and as I thought there was going to be a reasonable gap around them, so I'm going to use some Mr. Surfacer 500 to fill that gap. The bombs have dried, or depth charges, so all I need to do is do a bit of seam work on those, and same with the propeller. So I think you can see there is a considerable flash on these props, as well as some ejector pins on the back. To be fair, they only need flattened down a little bit, you're not going to see them. Also on these propellers is a molded in line on the tip. You can see that with the reflection of the light, and that's the demarcation line for the yellow tips, the hazard tips. That needs taken off as well. These engines had extended exhausts on one of the exhausts, so these are really quite nice. They're already hollowed out. These are the extended exhausts, so we need to just put a bit of a black coat in there. This is obviously for anti-flash, and they just popped on the wing. If we just pop the engine on, and knock the camera, I'll just zoom out a little bit because I'm just narrowed the field. There we go. So these pop on, so the engines go on there, and these just pop on right way around here, but they go on once the front cowling's gone on as well. So yeah, they're about something like that. So we need to get the engines on before we can fix these, but they do need to go on before we paint the wing, because I want to get all the glue in and everything done and get it all feathered in, so we've got a fantastic smooth surface for painting. So I'm going to get the airbrush out. I'm going to spray the inside of these. I'm actually going to go for Tamiya XF4, which is the chromate, zinc chromate yellow, just for a bit of difference, but I actually think they were that color. I'm also going to remember to spray the back of this, and we'll put in the Photo Etch fret into that, and then we can think about getting the engines on the wing. So we'll see you shortly. Right, welcome back. So when we left off last time, then I have sprayed the internal of the engine cowls. I've also put a quick dozer spray in the exhausts. It's probably not the right color, but it's just a bit of color. When you do the top camouflage, then that's probably going to get blended in nicely. I've attached, as we spoke about, attached the engines to the wing, so they're looking really nice. And also we've got the Photo Etch grill, if we can get focused on that, in the aperture. It's not the best fit, to be fair, but it's filling the bulk of the hole. I'm putting a bit of detail in that wasn't there before, so it's good. Now we need to put a little bit of a wash on the engines. I'm going to turn to my Citadel Nuln oil. So it is just a sort of a black greasy wash, an acrylic wash, and it goes on really nicely over a satin finish, and it's dead easy to brush on, so we can just brush on, and it's the same as you do with an oil wash, except this is an acrylic wash, so you need to make sure it's evenly spread and it isn't allowed to pool, because once it's dry. You can't really reactivate it. If you want to reactivate it, then that just basically means you're going to be stripping the whole engine, because it'll strip this, but it'll also strip all the other paints you've put on. So just a generous coat. We want to cover all the ignition leads. We want to cover the cylinders, and then obviously just a little bit on the reduction gear housing. And work it right in, go right around the engine. And the trick with this stuff is, once you're happy with it, walk away, leave it, let it do its thing. You can stipple it if you want, but it works really, really well with acrylic paints, and it certainly helps if you see the difference there between the washed engine and the unwashed engine. So we've got a nice used look and then a very clean look. So we'll quickly do the other side. And you can see in real time how quick it is to do, quick and easy. Just make sure you get all the parts of the engine. This will be dry about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how heavy a coat you put on. And if you want to dull it down a bit more, you can come back in and recoat. It's not a problem. And again, you need to let it dry for about 20 to 30 minutes before you come in for a recoat. Otherwise, you do actually stand a chance of reactivating your first coat and causing tide marks and whatnot. So, we're happy with that. Don't try and get the engines exactly equal, because no aero engine is the same. One will be more oily than the other. Both of them will probably leak profusely, being radials. Right, we can do quickly the inside of the cowling, and that is literally really quick and dirty. Get it in there, and we're using it more as a filter to shade the zinc chromate, give it that oily look, highlight any bits of detail that are on the inside, but really just to take the brightness off the zinc chromate yellow, tone it down a bit, give it that used look. Same for this engine. And that's it. Very, very simple. Not too bright now, more in keeping with an in-service aircraft. Right, there we go. Now these brushes, when you've been using this stuff, it can clean with water, or you can clean it with my usual IPA, isopropanol alcohol, 70 or 90% proof, and that will clean your brush perfectly. Do clean your brush, because it will set up in your brush and you'll end up having to clean it with cellulose thinners, which will strip acrylic paint out of a brush and leave it really clean. So right, so when the non-oil is dried, we'll look at getting the engine cowlings on the wing, and then we've got the flash hide and exhaust shrouds. I'm assuming that's what these are, for one exhaust, and then there is just a stubby exhaust out the other one, and then we can actually start to think about possibly getting the wing attached to the fuselage. So we'll be back shortly. So back we are, and here we go. So we've got the engines complete, and I have to say I'm really quite happy how they've turned out. We've got obviously the engine cowlings on. The fit's a little bit finicky, so you need to take your time, but we've got them reasonably even around the engines, and the cooling flaps are partially open, so it's all in keeping. Now we've got, if you have a look in there, come on, focus on camera. There we go. So we can see For all you're going to see the engine, the detail's quite nice, and the non-oil has done a really nice job of lightly weathering the engine, so I'm quite happy with that, and I'm happy to put that to bed. We've got the gauze filters in the back here, and then we've got the shrouded exhaust on the top, and if you can see, there's a little bit of Mr. Surfacer 500, so it was a bit gappy, so I've used a little bit of stretch sprue just to fill the bigger gaps, and then Mr. Surfacer 500, once it's fully dried up, just used a cotton bud or Q-tip, depending where you're from, soaked in cellulose thinners and just wiped it clean, and we did the same for the gap around this part here too. So all in all, we're really happy with that. Now, moving on, I was mentioned that I had something ordered to really lift the wings up to the next level, and thankfully it arrived in the post today. So looking at the wingtip floats, so you can either have them up in the flight position, or you can have them down in the landing takeoff configuration. The problem is, if you have them up in the flight position, you need to fettle the fit. It's not brilliant, so yeah, a little bit of fettling to get it in properly, but if you have it in the flight position, it's fine. All the riveting is fully in keeping with the rest of the wing and aircraft. However, if you have it in the lowered position, you can see there's absolutely no detail whatsoever in the recessed part of the wing, and there's been no detail whatsoever on the, well, it's the inside part of the float strut, but it's completely viewable from the outside. So that's a huge letdown for the kit, and I can understand the engineers not doing it because, well, it is what it is. It's all money and time of the day, and let's get back to reality. It's a 1995 kit, and this is where our good friends at Edard come in to help by producing this particular photo etch kit here. So it's part number 48826, and it's the PBY 5A floats. Well, it's the same wing whether you have the 5 or the 5A. And what you've got here are, you've got 2 pieces for the interior wing, and then you've got 2 pieces for the what would be the interior of the strut mount, but obviously when it's deployed you can see it, and that adds all the riveting back in. There's also 1 or 2 other little bits and pieces to fill in the blanks, and then you've also got the end of the wings strengthening plates. There's probably a proper name for it, but I don't know it. And then this piece here, which is like the aerofoil rib that goes on the end of the wings. All in all, you've got, there's a quick draw in there, all that you need to get these floats in a deployed position and put the detail back in that's lacking. Now there are decals that correspond to these hatches. I fear if we were using these hatches, we possibly won't need to use the decals. So this is going to really lift the kit and add the detail that's missing and take it to the next step. Also, that came in the post today, as something we'll be looking at, is the die-cut decal mask for the canopies, which is brilliant because desperately needed that. And what I've managed to do is I've managed to source it's either radar receiver or radar emitter for the top of the canopy that we need for this particular model. Now this came from the PBY 5A. I do have a 5A in my stash, and the model I'm going to build out of that doesn't require this to be made, so it's very handy to have it for this kit. Now the one other thing I need to do before we fully commit to painting, but it is these 2 exhausts here for the Royal Air Force Coastal Command ones, they actually had a fishtail diffuser. So I'm going to need to scratch build a fishtail diffuser for these somehow. Watch this space. I might do it, I might not. It depends if I can do it without actually causing myself too much stress and hassle. But if I want it to be completely accurate, the JV928 did have the fishtail diffusers over this two exhausts. So I'll see if I can do it. As I said, if it's going to easily be done without the risk of doing reversing any of the work we've done on this already, then I'll maybe think about it. But otherwise, we'll just keep pressing on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, and we will look at doing one of these float ends. It's a bit of a job because obviously the wing's huge, but I won't probably do it. I'll do one off camera, and then I'll prepare and I'll do one on camera. And obviously the second one I will have learnt from all the mistakes on the first one, so hopefully it'll be a bit more of a benefit for you guys watching. So back in a mo.